Hi, welcome to CIDC Nirman. I'm Jayashree Kurup. I'm editor at CIDC Nirman, and I have with me Dr. PR Swarup. He's the Director General of the CIDC.
Until about year 2000, the amount of construction that was done in past 50 years is almost like 5% of what we have done post 2000. I would say that almost all the subsectors are facing very severe manpower crisis, human resource crisis, as I would say, at all levels, starting from metro construction to highway construction, and of course the housing. If you require 100 odd people to do the jobs, you have hardly about 25 to 30% available. The best learning happens on job learning. Create a passage by which the foremen can become engineers. And that is what is going to be the biggest incentive. They are short of the competent manpower who can really groom these youngsters.
Dr. Swarup, today we are talking about the skills crunch in the industry. With the massive level of construction and the finance pouring in for construction across the country, which are the sectors that are facing acute skills shortages?
Yashi, I would say that almost all the subsectors are facing very severe manpower crisis, human resource crisis, as I would say, at all levels. But I think the biggest problem is actually how to find the people who actually deliver the things on the ground. And if you are talking about specific sectors, using that Pareto's principle of 2080, that which are the ones which are basically showing the biggest problem, are starting from metro construction to highway construction, and of course the housing. And then of course you have the rural construction and other infrastructure, airports and all, which relatively are attracting lesser investment, but metros and highways and of course housing. These are the ones which are having the lion's share.
And is the skills shortage equal at all levels, entry level, skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled, and so on?
You see, it is a situation which I can mathematically say that if you require 100 odd people to do the jobs, you have hardly about 25 to 30% available. And the bigger problem then is that these people are also having their own personal issues. Many of them are related to the kind of social background that they come from. And certainly there is another very major problem, and that is that most of the workforce that comes in India is basically confined to about 4 or 5 states, not more than that. Now, if you look at southern states for that matter, you'll find that lesser and lesser number of people are actually getting into construction. They're looking at more organized jobs. As a matter of fact, I have seen 3 generations of people coming in. There was a time when poverty was all pervading. And of course, in the rural hinterland also, you had a problem in almost all the states in the nation. But now some of them have really progressed well, and some of them have not. So what you are left with is a very, very small number of people who are actually being rotated throughout. And most of the operators are simply resorting to poaching them from one another. And that leaves everybody very, very poor. That is the kind of problem that we have.
On work sites, do we have a problem of people not being skilled? Is it because they are not mandated, or that there is not enough training capabilities?
Well, if I say that there are many agencies who keep on tom-tomming that they are skilling number of people, but I think fundamentally they don't understand how exactly the people have to be trained. But then training alone is not enough. The bigger problem here is about retaining these people. And unfortunately, we are doing precious little to make sure that, whatever skills they acquire, they are contemporary, they are actually needed. And secondly, the numbers are so low and attrition is so high that they keep on moving from place to place. So, of course, what happens is somebody who has worked on a certain type of structures for, say, last 3 years, they go and join another field. And after that, the knowledge that they had acquired either becomes obsolete or it becomes insufficient. This is the problem.
Okay. And normally here, tell us about the trades that we are talking about right now.
There are many conventional trades that we have in a store, and the number of conventional trades, like we have always known, I mean, I'm just citing some of them, the basic ones like masonry, carpentry, bar bending, shuttering, carpentry, and things like that. And then, of course, there is a host of equipment to be operated, and you need the people who can maintain them, and you need the people who can operate them effectively. So there are variety of conventional type of trades that are needed. But now, of course, there are many more new kind of trades that are emerging now, which are basically result of the kind of scientific and technological advancements that you have. Take for an example, in India, we had only been constructing tunnels of larger dimensions, and that too for hydroelectric power plants and places like that. But now, with the kind of 25 organizations in the country, each having a huge budget of over 1 lakh crores of rupees, going full blast constructing the metro network and the the region development corporations who are looking at the multiple states and cities for connectivity. We have a problem now that where exactly are the tunneling people? And tunneling is a very different ball game altogether. I cite another one. The situation here is that we keep on looking at, the surface construction, which is over the ground and which is visible. But what exactly is happening underneath the ground? I'm talking about the technologies like trenchless technology, and I'm talking, situations like spatial piling techniques. That is where we have really dearth of people that you have there. I've been meeting across lots of people, and the easiest way they try to do it, they can import few of the people from Germany or few of the people from Europe, and they hope and they think that these are the people who can teach our people who can do the kind of things. But then, of course, there is a lot of problem like communication. There is a lot of problem like the kind of contemporary way of working, the mores, the norms, the ethos of the people who are teaching and who are being taught. So it is actually, I would call, the return on the whole effort that is being made is in the right, absolutely abysmal, and it is not in the right direction. So there is a whole new approach that one has to think about in case we really want to have our people getting into this kind of situation. In a way, it is also affecting the employment potential of people also. This is another problem that you have there.
So, as an industry organization, what is CIDC doing? What are the steps you are taking?
Okay, now let me tell you, we are in this work for last about 3 decades, ever since CIDC had opened. And today we have the proud privilege of having the largest number of people who are skilled genuinely, and those who are actually in the industry, serving the industry for past about 2.5 decades now. And I'm very, very satisfied and happy that the first lot has gone out very well. The retentions are also very high. But then, of course, what is required is that, reskilling of these people and, of course, converting them into higher level of understanding, that is something which is needed. So the basic roadmap that we have thought, and this is also driven by a simple fact that when I started my career almost like about 5 decades earlier, there used to be a cadre called foremen. And these foremen were the one who were the link between the engineers and the workers. They basically came from the workers' lot, but then they were experienced people. They knew the local languages, they knew the kind of dialects of the workers, and they used to gel with them together. And they were like friend, philosopher, and guide to the workforces for that matter. Unfortunately, what has happened is that the whole tribe of foremen is totally diminished. So, what we have started doing that we train these people. Primarily, there are lesser number of people who are going to the training institutes because everybody thinks that let there be a training institute created and let the workers come to the training institute and learn things there. I'm sorry, this is not something which is going to really fly because the best learning happens on job learning. So that is why we have now drawn up a very big roadmap. And I can tell you that pilot projects have already started there and they are with very good results. So what we do is that we check the skills of various people. Because there's another thing, Jayashree, one has to understand that it is not the singular skill with which a person can perform. Like a mason has to know quite a lot about bar bending, and he has to understand about, the Maiwan shuttering type of things, which are the latest ones. Then only he will be in a position to perform. It's a multidisciplinary kind of working that you have. And that can only be achieved when one is at the project site, for that matter. That saves a lot of cost also, in the sense that you don't have to really set up huge buildings, fancy looking hostels and things like that. So the workers are basically taken there. We profile their skills under recognition of prior learning skill testing program. And after that, we divide them into three categories. The first category is what we say, those who are articulate, who can speak well, and who can explain the things, and they are competent in their job. And we have decided to rename them as foremen. And that's our advice to the employers also. They are like precious stones. You have to basically keep them very close to your heart. And the numbers obviously are not very large there. The second lot is basically the one who are competent, but who cannot be basically very good teachers, for that matter. So we have to segregate them and allow them to work or to develop the communication skills so that tomorrow they can graduate to the level of becoming the foreman. And the third one is the one which has got deficient skills. I don't say they fail, because there is nothing like semi-skilled people. Either they have the gaps which have to be fulfilled, and for that, what we are doing is we are charging these foremen and giving them the kind of teaching aid, etc., and the kind of methods by which they can educate these people right at the site itself. I mean, majority of the cases, they come from the same clan, they come from the same village, they come from the same neighborhood, they speak the same dialect and language, and it is very easy for the foreman to really go out and educate them and train them in real sense. So continuous, recognition of their skills, continuous testing, and on-site learning is the kind of plan that we have made. I'm very happy to tell you that of all the metro corporations, it is the Chennai Metro Rail Corporation, CMRL, which is emerging as one of the finest metro rail corporation. I had a discussion with the MD and director project there, and they immediately grabbed this situation because they are very, very keen that their project does not suffer any time and cost overrun. The quality must be excellent. And that is why they said that all the major construction companies that are engaged with them, they should have their people immediately put under this particular program. We are not basically leaving anybody, even those who they call as unskilled, they are also being taken to the fold. Because today you can call them unskilled. Maybe after 6 months, once they have acquired some skills, you might find that there are bright sparks, for that matter. And it is again a question of willingness. Now, this goes without saying that these people who will be elevated to the level of properly skilled people, we are also recommending all these organizations that they should ensure that there is some kind of a monetary privilege, monetary benefit that is given to them. Merely acquiring the qualifications is not going to help. You have to give them the authority. You also have to give them the kind of charge that they must do that. That mission must be made very clear, and also give them certain benefits related to their earnings and their position as well. Also create a passage by which the foremen can become engineers. And that is what is going to be the biggest incentive. Fortunately, I am also the member secretary of Engineering Council of India, and together with CIDC, Engineering Council of India, and couple of progressive universities, we are going to be starting an upskilling program by which these foremen can also join the diploma program in engineering, and they truly can become engineers. In fact, if you see Germany and whole of the Western Europe and even Eastern Europe, when this was being reconstructed after the Second World War, this was a kind of method that they adopted. And because they had a lack of engineers, lack of manpower, and I'm saying manpower means manpower, not the women power. Yeah. They had this problem post-war. There were a lot of men who had lost their lives
Yeah.
in the wars and other things. So they created this situation by which they started picking up the people who were raw, they were trained, they were groomed, they were given higher responsibilities. And that is how basically the first lot of engineers, they emerged, and they gave them a diploma called D.Eng, which was Doctor in Engineering. Those who reached to the highest level.
Yeah.
In fact, one of our industry doyens, who's no more with us, God may keep his soul in the rest, that is Dr. Subrao. He himself was basically a product like that. And believe you me, Jayashree, I have never seen a better and more competent engineer than him.
Yeah.
Late Dr. S.A. Reddy
Hmm.
of Gammon, India. He was another example that we had there. So when these people can do wonders, and when they can really do very well, and they were very, very committed to construction industry. So today we need this particular lot to be trained, and that's my you can say the blueprint.
These we are talking about the worker skilling, testing, and so on. At the higher levels, at the engineering levels also, do you have shortage of skills?
Tremendous shortage. And one very major problem is that is again where the employers have to understand something, that they cannot compete with the information technology industry. But here is a young person who goes to the engineering college, and the moment he goes there, he understands that as a civil engineer, he might be earning something like 25, 30,000 rupees a month, if at all he gets a job. But then as an IT professional, the minimum that he gets is about 50 to 60,000 rupees a month. So obviously, these are the reasons which compel him not to basically go for the hardcore engineering. So I think this is another area where the employers have to work quite hard. The other problem that we are facing is with our engineering colleges and many other universities also. They are short of the competent manpower who can really groom these youngsters. Majority of them had never been to the project site. They have no exposure, and they call themselves as an academician, and that is where the problem comes. So together with the All India Council for Technical Education, we impressed upon them that out of 4 years of curriculum that you have, period that you have, 6 months minimum they should devote at the site of work. They should learn the things. And like it happened in my case when I graduated in 1975, I was put, and my first teacher was the foreman in the workshop. And he taught me for about 3 months. And after that, I was put under the charge of the head draftsman. He taught me how to draw and how basically to kind of develop the drawings for that matter. Now that gave me so much of insight in the things about my business also, that after 1 year, when my apprenticeship period was over, I was in a position to handle many things very, very efficiently for that matter. I personally feel that first 6 months right in the college and another 1 year, the youngsters have to be put on the toughest of the jobs, not in front of the computers. They should go really at the site of work. They should see the processes. They should understand what exactly causes accidents, what are the kind of safety procedures that they should have, what are the quality parameters, and they must basically understand the things, how it is done. Then only they are ready to administrate. Look at the doctors. A doctor, an MBBS doctor, he has to undergo the theoretical training, practical training, and then he is put on the house job, and then he is put on the internship. It is only then he receives his diploma. Otherwise, he doesn't get that. So I believe that something like that will have to be done. We are already working at that. And fortunately, AICT has already accepted and made internship as mandatory. So now in this particular thing, employers have to work, the regulatory authorities have to work, and we have to work as facilitators. And that is precisely where the trio is going to achieve the whole thing. Because Jesse, you understand that until about year 2000, the amount of construction that was done in past 50 years is almost like 5% of what we have done post 2000. We are full of construction. You go to the peaceful cities like Bangalore, Chennai, which always used to be very, very comfortable cities, Pune, and even Delhi for that matter. And the whole place is so crowded, and everything is so congested. The youngsters are basically rushing to these cities. The infrastructure is being built when people are living there, and it's causing so much of discomfort for that matter. But then, well, that is the way it is. So we have to understand that huge sums of money are being invested. We have to prepare our people. Otherwise, we'll be cutting a very, very sorry figure. I'm telling you this.
So out of every project allocation, what percentage is allocated for training of the retraining of the workforces?
I'm afraid zilch, almost zilch. Nobody is worried or bothered that they are going to be training. As a matter of fact, even to the larger corporations also, I'm not going to name them, they have very little allocated as far as the genuine training is concerned. It is now that we are impressing upon them, and they also understand and realize that their projects are undergoing time and cost overrun, which is going to be resulting into bad name for them, and their margins will be eroded. In many cases, they'll be losing their entire profits for that matter, whether they like it or not. They will have to basically resort to this. And this even applies to the developers of the property. They have to understand that although the responsibility is shoved upon the contractor who they hire, but fact of the matter is that if you do not have the stuff available in the market, how do you really keep your supply lines going? And how do you get your projects in time? So I think here is a great message for the developers also. They can design beautiful buildings. They can put up a lot of advertisement. Matter of fact, I'll give you this funny situation where in the real estate, what is happening is that huge sums of money are being spent on advertisements in the newspaper, in the YouTube, and wherever it is, but very little sum of money is actually being spent as far as the skilling is concerned, because the roadmap itself is not clear to them. That is where basically the problem is.
So the trained workers, suppose now you're training the workers of Chennai Metro Rail Corporation. Uh,
Yeah.
those after that project is completed, those people have to remain in the rail metro rail projects, or can they be assimilated into other maybe other engineering projects?
Okay, let me just tell you something. The quantum of work that is now on the anvil, this is going to keep people engaged for at least about 15 to 20 years minimum. And many of them are in their mid 20s and early 30s types. And generally, a construction worker, because of the tough and hard life that he or she spends, generally looks for some kind of a comfortable job by the time they reach their mid 40s. So I think for this particular lot that is coming now, they will have enough work for their lifetime. Lifetime means I'm talking of useful lifetime. Now comes the second part. Second is that these particular facilities that are being created, they need to be maintained also. That is another thing where people who know their business and job. I give you this example where British Rail constructed their own network, and now they don't have people to maintain that. Do you know where exactly they are picking up these people from?
Mhm.
Many of the retired Indian Railway personnel and Pakistani railway personnel and Bangladeshi railway personnel are now being imported by British Rail, because we never modernized, and all the old network of British Rail, they are exactly the same what we had. So therefore, what is happening is that they are required everywhere. You see, you can't suddenly say use the magic wand and basically everything will vanish. You have to live with the past also. The structures have been constructed. Now the flyovers that have been constructed, they are needing huge repairs, huge maintenance, huge health assessment. But then where are the people who know about this? So there is a multifarious activity that we have to do, and especially transportation sector is going to be very, very critical for us.
Yeah, sure. And today, which are the segments where you've already started training? You talked about Metro Rail. Which are the other segments where you've already started training and certification?
Housing,
Mhm.
Metros, I've already told, highways. These
Mhm.
are the three major sectors that we are focusing on, which I spoke about.
Yeah.
And of course, you have then very soon, we will be looking at storage structures, warehousing, prefabricated structures, and many other areas that you have there. You see, the principles, the first fundamentals and principles remain same. Whether you construct a warehouse or you construct a metro corporation or you construct an airport, the basic fundamentals are same. It's almost like this, that for anything that you do, basic 10 digits, these numbers, they remain same. They don't change. Basic alphabets, they remain same. They don't change. And rest of it is basically how you develop them.
Okay.
So that's the way it is.
So as I hear it, there are certain problems that you have highlighted. One is that there is a shortage of skills. The contracting companies and the client companies have to pick up skilled manpower or impart skilling and certification on a continuous basis. There has to be appropriate remuneration changes that have to happen for workforces as well as the executive cadre, where the engineering colleges have to ensure that these workforces have to, or these students have to also have site experience, hands-on experience, right? And the other thing is that there should be more allocations for skilling and training for the construction industry because we are on a growth path, right?
Absolutely correct, Jayashree. And one has to understand, I will just cite a very simple example for easy comprehension. We all have children, and the children have to be educated. We know that it is good for them, it is good for the families, it is also good for the nation. Now, the sole responsibility of training, if it is left to the school only and school teachers only, I don't think this is going to work. So the families have to work at it, parents have to work at it, even neighbors have to work at it, and then only a child becomes a kind of useful and ideal adult.
Sure.
That is precisely what we have to see. The workers are like children,
Yeah.
and all the persons who are concerned, and same goes for the young engineers also.
Yeah.
So everybody has to work in tandem.
Hope the industry who's listening to you imbibes these essential qualities. And as an industry body, I'm sure there are many things that you are also undertaking to push the skilling and certification forward.